Men who sleep 5 hours a night have significantly smaller testicles than men who sleep 7 hours or more.
Well, that is quite the statement to open a conversation with. I will give you that.
I mean, it completely stopped me in my tracks.
I can imagine.
Usually we start these deep dives with a bit of, philosophy, maybe a gentle warm-up. But today, I am just hitting you, the listener, right out of the gate
Yeah.
with the biological reality.
Yeah, jumping right into the deep end.
Exactly. And it gets wilder. If a man routinely sleeps just 4 to 5 hours a night, his testosterone levels drop so much that he essentially operates with the testosterone of someone 10 years older.
Right.
So a lack of sleep basically ages your reproductive health by a full decade.
A literal decade. And just to be absolutely clear right away, we see equivalent massive impairments in female reproductive health caused by a lack of sleep, too.
Oh, wow. So it's across the board.
Totally across the board. It is a universal biological tax that we pay for staying awake.
Yeah, that is the reality of sleep deprivation. I mean, it doesn't just make you a little groggy during your morning commute.
No, not all.
It fundamentally alters your biology. So today, we are unpacking a really fascinating, comprehensive presentation from a leading sleep scientist. We are going straight into the biological functions of deep sleep.
And there is so much to cover there.
There really is. We are going to look at how sleep locks in our memories, what happens to our immune system when we ignore it, and most importantly, the actual concrete steps you can take to fix your sleep habits starting tonight.
Yeah, actionable advice is key here. And we should probably mention that we have a very specific framework for our discussion today, right?
Yes, absolutely. We know that a large portion of our audience listens to this show as a way to, improve their English.
Right, particularly those at an intermediate, like a B1 or B2 level.
Exactly. So if you are listening to us right now while you're commuting or maybe making breakfast, and your goal is to sharpen your English comprehension, we have designed this specific conversation with you in mind.
We really have. We are going to tackle some incredibly complex biological ideas, but, we are going to break them down clearly.
Yeah, and as we go, we are going to naturally highlight and explore 10 key English vocabulary words.
Words that are essential not just for understanding sleep science, but really for everyday professional and academic life.
Right. Words like deprivation and essential, which we'll get into soon, is a great way to approach the material, I think.
I completely agree, because just as improving a language requires consistency and, well, creating the right environment for your brain to learn, maintaining your overall health requires sleep.
Yeah, it really does.
But modern society has kind of conditioned us to treat sleep like an optional luxury.
Oh, 100%.
We treat it like an adjustable line item in our daily budget. But the biological data proves that sleep is a non-negotiable biological necessity. It is basically Mother Nature's ultimate life support system.
Right.
Or, to borrow a really brilliant phrase from the research we're looking at, it is the Swiss Army knife of health.
The Swiss Army knife. I absolutely love that imagery.
It's perfect, right?
It is, because a Swiss Army knife has a specialized tool for every single problem you might encounter. And apparently, sleep has a biological tool for every system in our body.
Exactly.
So if we are opening that pocket knife, let's pull out the first tool, which is the brain.
Specifically learning and memory.
Right. Now, I have always operated under the assumption that you just needed a good night's sleep after you learned something.
That's what most people think.
Right. Like, you study for a test, you go to sleep, and your brain just hits the save button on all that new data.
And, that is a huge part of the equation. We will get into the physical mechanics of that save button shortly.
Okay.
But what sleep scientists have recently discovered is perhaps even more critical for someone trying to learn something new.
Yeah, what is it?
You actually need a full night of sleep before learning to even prepare your brain to absorb new information.
Wait, before learning, so if you haven't slept, you can't even get the information through the front door.
Precisely. You're locked out.
Wow. The researchers used this incredibly vivid analogy for this. They said, a fully rested brain is like a dry sponge.
Right, a dry sponge.
It is porous, it is ready, and it can easily soak up new water, or in this case, new information.
But what happens to pull an all-nighter?
Yeah, an all-nighter. And by the way, for our language learners, pulling an all-nighter is a very common English idiom.
It is.
It just means staying awake all night long, usually to study or to work.
Yeah, I definitely pulled a few all-nighters in university.
Oh, I think we all did.
Right.
I thought I was being so productive.
We all fall into that trap. We think time awake equals time being productive. But the science shows the exact opposite.
Okay, so if the brain is a sponge, What happens when we pull that all-nighter? Does the water just bounce off?
Well, this brings us to our first key vocabulary concept, which is deprivation.
Deprivation.
Yeah. When we talk about sleep deprivation, we are talking about a state of profound lacking. When you suffer from deprivation, it basically means you are completely denied something that is absolutely necessary for your basic well-being.
Right, so you can talk about food deprivation or oxygen deprivation.
Exactly.
Like if you are lost in the desert, you suffer from water deprivation. It is a severe, dangerous lack of something.
Yes. So to understand what sleep deprivation actually does to that dry sponge of a brain, researchers designed a rather brutal experiment.
Brutal. How?
Well, they gathered a group of healthy individuals and divided them into two camps. The first group was allowed to sleep a full 8 hours.
Okay, sounds nice.
Yeah, a completely normal restorative night. But the second group was the deprivation group.
And when you say deprivation in a clinical setting, you really mean it, right?
Oh, absolutely. They were kept awake in a laboratory all night long under full supervision. They couldn't even take a 5-minute nap.
Wow.
And brutally, they were not allowed any caffeine.
Wait, no caffeine at all?
No coffee, no tea, nothing to artificially prop up their alertness.
That sounds like pure misery.
It really does. But, it was necessary to see the baseline function of an exhausted brain.
Okay, so what did they find?
Well, the next day, the researchers put all of these participants inside an MRI scanner.
Just to quickly clarify for anyone who doesn't know, an MRI is a massive machine that essentially takes real-time, high-resolution snapshots of your brain activity, right?
Exactly. So while inside the scanner, the participants were given a long list of new facts to learn. The researchers then tested them to see how much of that new information actually stuck.
Okay, so I want to pause here because this is where my own assumptions just completely shattered.
Yeah.
If the rested brain is a dry sponge soaking up the facts, what did the deprived brain look like? Does the information just sort of sit on the surface, or does it bounce off?
It essentially bounces right off.
Yeah.
When the researchers compared the MRI results and the test scores of the two groups, they discovered a staggering 40% deficit in the sleep-deprived group's ability to make new memories.
A 40% deficit.
Yeah, 40%.
Let's make sure that word is crystal clear because it is our second key vocabulary term, a deficit.
Right.
A deficit is a severe shortage. It is a gap between what you need and what you actually have.
That's a great way to define it.
Like in the business world, if your company spends $1 million but only makes $600,000, you have a massive financial deficit. Your bank account is fundamentally lacking.
Yes, exactly. And in this case, it is a cognitive deficit, a severe shortage in the brain's ability to perform its basic function.
Just to put that into perspective for anyone listening right now, let's say you are preparing for a massive presentation at work, or you are taking an English proficiency exam.
Right.
A 40% deficit is the difference between completely acing that exam,
Yeah.
getting a top-tier score, and failing it miserably.
It is huge. It is not just a little bit of brain fog. It is a massive structural failure to learn.
And did the MRI scans actually show why that failure happens?
They did, yeah. They looked at a specific structure in the brain called the hippocampus. You have one sitting on the left side of your brain and one on the right.
The hippocampus.
Right. And the hippocampus acts as the informational inbox of your brain.
The informational inbox. I love thinking about it like an email inbox.
It's a really helpful way to visualize it.
So when you are awake and experiencing the world, emails are just flying into the hippocampus.
Exactly. And in the participants who slept for 8 hours, the MRI showed that their inbox was incredibly active. It was lighting up with healthy, vibrant, learning-related activity. It was taking in all those new files and organizing them.
But what about in the group that pulled the all-nighter?
The researchers couldn't find any significant activity signal at all.
Wait, really? Nothing.
It was dark. It was as if sleep deprivation had completely shut down the memory inbox.
Wow.
The sponge wasn't dry anymore. It was waterlogged. It couldn't absorb a single drop more. All those new incoming files, the new facts they were trying to learn were just bouncing right off.
That is genuinely frightening if you think about our modern work culture.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we constantly sacrifice sleep to prepare for the big meeting the next day. But if you didn't sleep, your hippocampus inbox is shut down.
Yeah, it's closed for business.
So your boss or your teacher could be giving you critical information, and it is literally bouncing off your waterlogged brain. You simply cannot effectively commit new experiences to memory without prior sleep.
That is the preparation phase, exactly. But as you mentioned earlier, we also have to look at what happens after we learn.
Right. Suppose you did get a good night's sleep, your inbox is open, and you learned 100 new English words today. How does the brain actually hit the save button?
Well, if the hippocampus is just an inbox, you can't keep emails in your inbox forever.
No, eventually it gets full, or things just get deleted.
Right. So how do we move those memories into permanent storage?
Good question.
To really understand that biological process, we need to lean into 3 more crucial vocabulary words.
Okay, let's hear them.
Consolidate, vulnerable, and mechanism.
Perfect. Okay, let's start with consolidate.
Sure.
To consolidate something means to make it stronger, more solid, or more permanent, usually by combining scattered things together.
That's a solid definition.
Think about a student who takes messy notes on 5 different pieces of paper during a lecture. When they get home, they consolidate those notes into one clear, organized document. They make it permanent and structured.
Exactly. And in the context of the brain, we are talking about memory consolidation.
Memory consolidation.
Yeah. The brain takes the fragile, temporary memories from the day and solidifies them so they aren't lost. And that actually brings us to the word vulnerable.
Vulnerable. Okay, vulnerable means being exposed to danger or being easily damaged.
Right.
A house with its doors unlocked is vulnerable to a break-in.
Yeah.
Or a baby animal in the wild is vulnerable to predators. It just means there is no protection.
Yes. And memories sitting in your hippocampus inbox are highly vulnerable.
Oh,
yeah. They can be easily overwritten by new experiences or simply forgotten if they aren't protected.
Oh, okay.
The brain needs a way to move them out of that vulnerable state. And to do that, it uses a very specific mechanism.
Which is our third word. And a mechanism is just a process, a system, or a physical working part that does a specific job.
Like what?
Well, if you look inside a traditional grandfather clock, the spinning gears and the swinging pendulum, that entire system is the mechanism that keeps the time.
I like that analogy. So we have a vulnerable memory that needs to be consolidated, and the brain requires a physical mechanism to do it.
Right?
And researchers discovered exactly what that mechanism is by placing electrodes all over the heads of the sleeping participants.
Oh, to measure the actual electrical brain waves happening during the night.
Exactly.
Now, this is where the science feels almost like magic to me. What are those electrodes actually picking up?
Well, they found that when you enter the deepest stages of sleep, your brain generates these massive, slow, powerful brain waves.
Massive and slow.
Yeah, they are huge, sweeping electrical currents. But what is truly spectacular is that riding on top of these deep brainwaves are sudden, intense bursts of electrical activity.
Like sparks?
Sort of. The scientific term for them is sleep spindles.
Sleep spindles. It sounds like something out of a fantasy novel.
It does, doesn't it?
You have these deep, slow ocean waves, and then suddenly, zap, a spindle of electricity shoots across the brain.
It is a beautiful visual. And it turns out the combination of those slow, deep brainwaves and those rapid sleep spindles acts as a literal file transfer mechanism.
A file transfer? You mean like plugging a USB drive into a computer and moving a folder?
It is functionally identical.
Wait, really?
Yes, this electrical mechanism takes the memories from the short-term, highly vulnerable reservoir of the hippocampus, and it physically shifts them up into the cortex.
The cortex?
Yeah, which is the wrinkled outer surface of the brain. The cortex acts as a permanent, long-term storage site.
What?
It is like moving a file from a fragile glass jar into a concrete vault. The memory is protected, it is safe, it is consolidated.
Okay, let me just sit with that for a second, because the implications for our daily lives are just massive here.
They really are.
If you are listening to this right now and you spend 3 hours today rigorously studying English vocabulary or reading a complex report for your job,
Yeah.
if you don't get deep sleep tonight, you don't get those slow brainwaves. You don't get the sleep spindles.
And if you don't get the spindles, the file transfer simply never happens.
So the files just stay in the vulnerable glass jar of the hippocampus until they are eventually overwritten or just forgotten.
Basically, yes.
You essentially get all that hard work for nothing.
Yeah.
You have to let your brain physically transfer the data, and that physical transfer only occurs when your head is on the pillow and you are in deep sleep.
It is a profoundly important biological function that we honestly take completely for granted.
Yeah, we really do.
And unfortunately, understanding how crucial this mechanism is leads us to a much more difficult conversation.
Which is?
We have to look at what happens to this file transfer system as we age.
Ah, right.
Which brings us to another essential vocabulary word: Disruption.
Disruption. Okay, a disruption is an interruption. It is a break in the normal, healthy course of an activity.
Exactly.
Like if you are trying to focus on writing an essay and a fire alarm starts blaring in your building, that is a massive disruption. It destroys your focus. Your process is broken.
That's a perfect example. And we all know that as we get older, our cognitive abilities tend to change.
Right.
Our memory begins to fade, it becomes harder to learn new things quickly, and we might struggle to recall names or events.
This is considered a normal part of aging.
Usually, yes. But what sleep scientists have uncovered is another physiological signature of aging that most people ignore.
Your sleep gets worse.
Yes. But worse in a very specific way, right? It isn't just that older people wake up earlier.
Right. It's not just waking up at 5 a.m.
Exactly. It is the deep quality of the sleep that suffers. Those massive, slow brainwaves and those crucial electrical sleep spindles, they become severely disrupted.
The file transfer mechanism breaks down.
Yes. They lose their size, their frequency, and their power.
And here's the part that completely rewired how I think about aging. For a long time, we just assumed these were two separate tragic side effects of getting old, right?
That was the general consensus.
Like your memory fades, and separately, you just don't sleep as well. Just two unrelated symptoms of aging. But the data shows they are not just happening at the same time by coincidence.
No, they're fundamentally interrelated.
They're deeply connected.
Very deeply. The disruption of that deep sleep file transfer mechanism is actively driving the cognitive decline.
Wow.
It is not a symptom. It is a contributing factor. The memories are fading because the biological machinery required to save them is breaking down.
That makes so much sense, but it's terrifying.
And scientists are now finding significant links between this deep sleep disruption and the development of Alzheimer's disease.
I have to admit, when I first read that in the source material, I felt a heavy sense of dread. Alzheimer's is terrifying, and knowing that losing deep sleep contributes to it feels like very depressing news.
It is heavy.
But then I caught myself, because within this research is actually an incredible silver lining.
A silver lining being a hopeful aspect in a seemingly bad situation. What did you find hopeful about this?
Well, think about the other factors associated with aging and Alzheimer's. Changes in the physical structure of the brain itself, or plaque buildup in the tissue.
Right, the amyloid plaques.
Those physical changes are fiendishly difficult to treat. We don't have a simple surgery to rebuild the physical structure of a failing brain.
We definitely do not.
But sleep. Sleep is a behavioral and physiological process. It is a puzzle piece that we can actually intervene with. It is a modifiable factor.
That is precisely why sleep scientists are so energized right now. If we can fix the sleep, we might be able to slow the decline.
Now, I know immediately people are thinking, well, great, I'll just get a prescription for sleeping pills.
Oh, yeah, that's the first instinct.
But the research pushes back against that very hard, doesn't it?
Strongly. Sleeping pills are described as blunt instruments.
Blunt instruments.
Yeah, they do not produce naturalistic sleep. They are essentially sedatives.
Ah, so you're just knocking yourself out.
Exactly. When you knock yourself out with a sleeping pill, you are sedating the higher regions of your cortex. You are unconscious, but you are not generating those big, powerful, restorative, deep brainwaves.
So you aren't getting the file transfer.
No, you are not getting the natural sleep spindles.
So if you are sedated, but not actually engaging the file transfer mechanism, what is the alternative? How do we fix deep sleep without pills?
Well, the research points to a revolutionary, almost science fiction level treatment being developed.
Okay, I love the sound of this.
It's called direct current brain stimulation.
Direct current brain stimulation. How on earth does that work? Are we plugging our heads into the wall?
It sounds intimidating, but the concept is actually beautifully elegant. Scientists place small pads on the head of a sleeping person.
Just normal pads?
Yeah, little electrode pads. And through these pads, they introduce a very small, completely unnoticeable amount of electrical voltage into the brain.
Unnoticeable, like it wouldn't wake you up.
Not at all. It is a tiny current. But the key isn't the amount of electricity, it is the rhythm.
The rhythm.
Yes. The scientists measure the person's existing, struggling, deep sleep brainwaves, and they apply this electrical stimulation to perfectly match that rhythm.
Oh, wow.
The analogy used in the field is that it is like a singer harmonizing with a song playing on the radio. They sing in time with the brain.
That is brilliant. So by singing in time with the brain's natural electrical rhythm, they amplify it.
Precisely. And when they test this technology on young, healthy adults, the results are phenomenal.
Really? What happens?
By boosting those deep sleep brainwaves with this gentle electrical harmony, They almost double the amount of memory benefit the participants get from sleep.
They double the memory retention.
Yes, doubled it.
That is unbelievable. Imagine studying a language, going to sleep, and having a device double the amount of vocabulary you retain by the morning.
It's incredible. But the real goal here isn't just helping young people ace their exams, right?
Right. The researchers call it a moonshot goal, meaning a hugely ambitious, world-changing objective.
Yes. The moonshot goal is to translate this technology to older adults, particularly those suffering from early-stage dementia or Alzheimer's.
That would be life-changing.
It would. If we can create an affordable, portable device that they can wear to bed, a device that artificially restores the power of their deep sleep brainwaves, we might be able to salvage their learning and memory function.
We might be able to give them back years of cognitive clarity.
Exactly. It is a massive beacon of hope in the medical field.
The idea that we could actively fight dementia just by repairing the electrical rhythm of sleep is profound.
It really is.
But as much as I want to stay in the brain because it is so fascinating, we have to look at the rest of the body.
Right, because it's not just the brain that suffers.
Exactly. Because if your memory inbox is shutting down, your physical body is definitely not escaping unharmed. Which brings us to our next crucial vocabulary word: essential.
Essential. When we call something essential, we mean it is absolutely fundamentally necessary. It is not an add-on.
It's not a bonus.
Right. It is not a luxury. You cannot live without it. Oxygen is essential. Water is essential.
And as the biological data proves, sleep is essential for the physical survival of your organs.
Yes. Let's look at the cardiovascular system first.
The heart. To illustrate just how sensitive the human heart is to sleep loss, the researchers point to a global experiment.
An experiment that is performed on 1.6 billion people across 70 countries twice every single year.
It is arguably the largest ongoing observational experiment in human history.
Without a doubt.
And the craziest part is, most of us participate in it without ever realizing we are test subjects. We are talking about daylight saving time.
Yes. Daylight saving time. In the spring, daylight saving time forces us to push our clocks forward.
Right, spring forward.
And in doing so, we essentially lose 1 hour of sleep opportunity.
Just one single hour. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, 1 hour feels like nothing. I lose an hour of sleep just doom scrolling on my phone in bed.
We all do. It feels insignificant, but the biological reality is shocking.
What happens?
When researchers look at hospital data the day after we lose that 1 hour of sleep in the spring, they see a 24% increase in heart attacks.
I need to make sure everyone heard that clearly. A 24% spike in heart attacks globally simply because the population was deprived of 60 minutes of sleep.
Yes.
That is terrifying.
It is. And the data perfectly mirrors itself in the autumn.
When we fall back.
Right. When daylight saving time ends and we push the clocks back, we gain an hour of sleep. The day after we gain that hour, there is a 21% reduction in heart attacks.
It is a perfect, symmetrical seesaw of cardiovascular health, entirely dictated by just 1 hour of sleep.
Exactly.
But why does that happen? Why is the heart so incredibly fragile that 1 hour tips the scale so violently?
Well, it speaks to how deeply intertwined sleep is with our nervous system and our blood pressure.
Okay.
When you are sleep deprived, even slightly, your sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response, goes into overdrive.
So you're in a stressed state.
Yes. Your blood pressure rises, your heart rate accelerates, and the stress hormone cortisol floods your system.
Wow.
So if you already have a slight vulnerability in your cardiovascular system, that sudden, forced 1 hour disruption is enough to push a struggling heart over the edge.
And it isn't just heart attacks, right?
Oh.
The data notes that fatal car crashes and even suicide rates follow the exact same profile. Lose an hour, they spike. Gain an hour, they drop.
It's all connected.
It demonstrates that our biology has zero tolerance for sleep deprivation. But if we dig even deeper into the body, we find a system that is perhaps even more dependent on sleep than the heart.
The immune system.
The immune system, our body's defense network.
Yes. And within this network, there are some truly fascinating microscopic characters called natural killer cells.
Natural killer cells. The name alone is incredible.
It's very descriptive.
The researchers use a brilliant analogy to describe them. They call these cells the secret service agents, or the immune assassins of your body.
It is a very accurate description. The singular job of a natural killer cell is to constantly patrol your bloodstream, identify dangerous foreign or mutated elements, and eliminate them.
Just take them out.
Exactly. Most importantly, they are responsible for identifying malignant cancer cells, and destroying them before they can form tumors.
So you want a massive, strong, highly active army of these immune assassins on patrol at all times.
You want the elite Secret Service guarding your health.
But here's the tragedy. If you aren't sleeping, you are basically firing your Secret Service.
You are.
There is a study that is just etched into my brain now from the reading.
Sure.
They didn't even completely deprive the participants of sleep.
No, they didn't.
They just restricted them to 4 hours of sleep for one single night.
Just one night of short sleep, not a week, not a month.
And the results?
The next day, there was a 70% drop in natural killer cell activity.
A 70% drop.
Yeah.
Your elite immune assassins are essentially wiped out. You are left completely defenseless.
And this state of sudden immune deficiency has massive real-world consequences. We're not just talking about catching a cold more easily.
Right.
There are robust, significant epidemiological links between short sleep duration and the development of numerous forms of cancer.
The list is growing too. Currently, chronic short sleep is strongly linked to cancer of the bowel, cancer of the prostate, and cancer of the breast.
Yes. The correlation is so undeniable that the World Health Organization had to step in.
Really? What did the WHO do?
The WHO has officially classified any form of nighttime shift work as a probable carcinogen.
A probable carcinogen.
Yes, a carcinogen being a substance or exposure that promotes the formation of cancer.
Because working the night shift inherently and chronically disrupts your natural sleep-wake rhythms?
Exactly. It systematically suppresses your immune assassins, leaving you highly vulnerable to tumor growth.
A probable carcinogen. Just like tobacco smoke or asbestos, the lack of sleep itself is toxic.
It is.
You know, in high-pressure work environments, whether it's finance, tech, or law, you constantly hear people say, well, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Oh, I hate that phrase.
They wear their exhaustion like a badge of honor. They think it proves how dedicated they are.
It is a very pervasive cultural attitude. But clinically speaking, it is mortally unwise advice.
Mortally unwise.
Yes. The scientific consensus, backed by studies of millions of individuals across decades, is remarkably simple.
Which is?
The shorter your sleep, the shorter your life. Short sleep predicts all-cause mortality.
It erodes your health from every conceivable angle. But honestly, if increasing your risk for Alzheimer's, inducing a 24% spike in heart attacks, and wiping out your immune system wasn't terrifying enough.
There's more.
The researchers looked even closer. They looked past the organs, past the immune cells, and went straight to the very code of life itself, your DNA.
Which brings us to our next vocabulary word, accumulate.
Accumulate. To accumulate means to gather, collect, or build up over time.
Right.
If you leave a bucket outside during a rainstorm, water accumulates inside it. If you put money in a high-yield savings account, interest accumulates.
Yes. And in the context of biology and sleep, we are looking at how microscopic damage accumulates in your genetic code when you stay awake.
The experiment they ran on DNA is deeply unsettling to me because it mirrors how most normal adults actually live.
It does.
They didn't torture people with zero sleep. They simply took healthy adults and limited them to 6 hours of sleep a night for 1 week.
6 hours. For a vast majority of the population, 6 hours of sleep is just a standard Tuesday. They consider it entirely normal.
Exactly. I know people who brag about functioning on 6 hours.
I do too.
But when the researchers measured the gene activity profile of these individuals after just 1 week of 6-hour nights and compared it to their profile when they were getting a full 8 hours, what did they find?
They found that the activity of 711 different genes had been distorted.
711 genes.
Yes. And it is the specific nature of the distortion that is so concerning. Genes can be upregulated, meaning their activity is increased, or downregulated, meaning they are switched off.
Let's look at the ones that were switched off first. About half of those 711 genes were downregulated.
Right.
And unfortunately, these are the genes associated with the immune system.
So once again, we see the biological mechanism behind that immune deficiency. The code that tells your body to build those Secret Service assassins is literally being turned off.
That's horrifying. But the other half of the genes were upregulated. Their activity was increased.
And these were the bad guys.
The bad guys.
These were genes known to promote the growth of tumors, genes associated with long-term chronic inflammation, and genes tightly linked to stress and cardiovascular disease.
The analogy the researchers use to describe this is incredibly apt. They compare sleep loss to a broken water pipe in your home.
Yeah, the broken pipe analogy.
The damage does not stay contained in one room. It leaks down into the walls, under the floorboards, into every nook and cranny of the house.
Sleep loss leaks into every nook and cranny of your physiology. It tampers with your daily health narrative at a genetic level. It touches everything.
But seeing this massive systemic failure leads me to a fundamental question. A question I think everyone listening is probably asking themselves right now.
What's the question?
Why is the human body so pathetic at handling sleep loss?
Pathetic in what sense?
I mean, if I cut my arm, my body knows exactly how to clot the blood and form a scab.
True.
If I fast and don't eat for a day, my body knows how to burn fat for energy to keep me alive. We have biological safety nets for physical trauma and starvation.
Yes, we do.
But if I miss just a few hours of sleep, my genes mutate, my immune system dies, and my heart is at risk. Why can't we just push through a busy work week, accumulate a sleep debt, and then pay it off by sleeping in on Saturday and Sunday? Why doesn't the body have a defense mechanism for this?
It is a brilliant question. And the answer requires us to look back at our evolutionary history.
Okay, let's look back.
First, we must dispel the myth of the sleep bank.
The sleep bank.
Yes, sleep is not a financial institution. You cannot accumulate a debt during the week and hope to pay it off in a lump sum over the weekend. The biology simply doesn't work that way.
So sleeping 14 hours on a Sunday doesn't reverse the 7 and 11 distorted genes.
It does not. The damage is done. And the reason our bodies deteriorate so rapidly and catastrophically when we don't sleep is because human beings are the only species on the planet that deliberately deprive themselves of sleep for absolutely no apparent survival-based reason.
Wait, we are the only species.
We are. Think about it. An animal in the wild will only deprive itself of sleep if it is starving and must forage for food, or if it is actively being hunted by a predator.
Right.
Once the immediate threat to survival is gone, the animal sleeps.
That makes perfect sense. My dog certainly doesn't voluntarily stay awake. If he is tired, he just collapses on the rug and goes to sleep.
Exactly. But humans, we have Netflix. We have late-night emails from our boss. We have social media, anxiety, artificial lighting. We force our eyes open.
Because this voluntary sleep deprivation is a uniquely modern, uniquely human behavior, Mother Nature never encountered it during the millions of years of human evolution.
Exactly. She never had to face the challenge of an animal refusing to sleep for no good reason.
Oh, so she never developed a safety net.
Precisely.
Yeah.
There is no biological safety net because, from an evolutionary standpoint, voluntary sleep deprivation shouldn't even exist. It is an aberration.
Wow.
When you undersleep, your systems just implode quickly because your body literally has no built-in defense mechanism to handle it. It is entirely unnatural.
That is a terrifying but deeply logical realization. We are breaking a biological law that evolution never expected us to break.
We really are.
Okay, if you are listening to this right now, I know we have painted a very grim picture. Your memory inbox is waterlogged, your immune assassins are dead, and your DNA is leaking like a broken pipe.
It's heavy stuff.
I promise you, we are not just going to leave you in a state of panic. Let's pivot to the most crucial, empowering part of this deep dive. How do we fix it?
Yes, let's talk about solutions.
The research provides highly actionable, scientifically proven tips to improve your sleep tonight. And this brings us to our final two vocabulary words: regularity and association.
Let's define regularity first. Doing something with regularity means doing it the exact same way, at the exact same time, consistently, without fail. If you drink a cup of tea every single morning at 7 a.m., you are doing it with regularity.
And association.
Yeah.
An association is a strong mental or psychological connection between two ideas, things, or places.
Right.
For example, if you grew up near the ocean, you might have a strong positive association between the smell of salt water and feeling relaxed.
Yeah.
Your brain links the two things together.
Keep both regularity and association in mind. Now, the researchers offer two fundamental rules for fixing your sleep, assuming you are already doing the basics.
Like avoiding caffeine in the afternoon, limiting alcohol before bed, and not taking long daytime naps.
Exactly. So, rule number one, regularity is king.
Regularity is king. What does that mean in practice?
It means you must go to bed at the exact same time every night, and you must wake up at the exact same time every morning, period.
But what about the weekends? If I have a grueling week and I get to Friday, I want to sleep in on Saturday morning.
I know it is deeply tempting, but the sleep scientists insist that you must maintain the schedule regardless of whether it is a weekday or the weekend.
Why?
Your brain's circadian rhythm, its internal 24-hour clock, craves predictability. When you constantly shift your sleep times, you are essentially giving yourself jet lag every single weekend.
Oh, that makes sense.
By maintaining strict regularity, you anchor your sleep. Over time, it will drastically improve both the quantity of hours you get and the deep restorative quality of those hours.
Okay, regularity is king. Pick a time and stick to it. Rule number 2 surprised me, though. Rule number 2 is keep it cool.
Yes, the temperature of your sleeping environment is incredibly important.
Why is that?
In order to successfully initiate sleep and to stay in deep sleep throughout the night, your body literally needs to drop its core temperature by about 2 to 3 degrees Fahrenheit.
So when I feel myself getting sleepy, my core temperature is physically dropping.
Exactly. It is a necessary physiological trigger for sleep.
That explains so much. It is always infinitely easier to fall asleep in a room that is slightly too cold, where you have to pull the blankets up, than it is to fall asleep in a room that is sweltering hot.
You can't force your core temperature down in a hot room.
You cannot.
Yeah.
So what is the biological recommendation?
The recommendation is to set your bedroom temperature to around 65 degrees Fahrenheit, which is roughly 18 degrees Celsius.
65 degrees.
Yeah. For the vast majority of human beings, that is the optimal thermal environment to trigger and maintain deep sleep.
65 degrees Fahrenheit, 18 degrees Celsius. But let's get real for a second.
Oh.
What if you do all of that? You go to bed at the exact same time, your room is a crisp 65 degrees, you haven't had coffee since noon,
Yeah.
and you are still just lying there.
Yeah, it happens.
You are tossing and turning, staring at the ceiling, doing the math in your head. You know the math. If I
Yeah.
fall asleep right now, I will get exactly 5 hours and 20 minutes. We have all been there. It is agonizing. What do you do?
This is where our final vocabulary word, association, becomes the most critical tool in your arsenal.
Association.
Yes. The explicit advice from sleep scientists is this. If you have been lying in bed awake for an extended period of time, say 20 or 30 minutes, you must physically get out of bed.
Hold on. Get out of bed. If I am struggling to sleep, getting up and walking around feels like the exact opposite of what I should do. Won't that just wake my body up even more?
It seems counterintuitive, I know. But what is the why behind that advice?
Tell me.
It is entirely about breaking a negative psychological association.
Right.
The human brain is an incredibly fast learner. If you lie in bed awake, tossing and turning, feeling anxious about not sleeping, your brain quickly forms a new mental connection. It begins to associate your bed not with peaceful sleep, but with wakefulness, frustration, and anxiety.
Oh, wow. So your bed literally becomes a trigger for stress.
Exactly. You are training your brain that the bed is the place where you go to worry. You have to break that association.
So you get out of bed.
You go to a different room, keep the lights very dim, read a book, listen to a calm, quiet podcast, do some light stretching.
Nothing stimulating.
Right. You do whatever you need to do to relax, and you only return to the bedroom when you are genuinely physically sleepy.
So you're forcing your brain to relearn the association that the bed is exclusively the place for sleep.
Yes.
If sleep isn't happening, you remove yourself so you don't contaminate the environment. The researchers used a fantastic, incredibly relatable analogy here that I think perfectly cements this concept for our B1 learners.
What was it?
They said, you would never sit at the dinner table waiting to get hungry. So why would you lie in bed waiting to get sleepy?
It is a brilliant way to frame the psychology of sleep. We understand the dinner table analogy intuitively.
We really do.
You go to the table when the hunger is there. You should only go to bed when the sleepiness is there.
Don't sit at the dinner table waiting to get hungry. I am absolutely going to remember that the next time I am staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m., that alone is worth the price of admission today.
It truly is a paradigm shift in how we approach insomnia. We have covered an immense, heavy amount of biological ground today.
We really have. Let's do a quick, comprehensive summary of the journey we took today, just to consolidate all this information. See what I did there?
Very clever.
Thank you. We learned that sleep is absolutely not an optional lifestyle luxury that we can trim when we are busy. It is a non-negotiable biological necessity. We discovered that sleep is necessary before learning to dry out the sponge and open the brain's informational inbox. And it is necessary after learning to generate those massive, deep brainwaves and sleep spindles.
Right, which physically transfer memories from vulnerable short-term storage into permanent, safe, long-term storage.
We also explored the severe systemic physical consequences of sleep deprivation. We saw how the fragile cardiovascular system reacts to just a 1-hour loss of sleep during daylight saving time with a 24% spike in heart attacks.
And we saw how a single night of 4-hour sleep causes a 70% drop in our immune system's elite natural killer cells, paving the way for cellular mutations in cancer.
And we learned the evolutionary why. Because humans are the only species arrogant enough to voluntarily deprive themselves of sleep, evolution never built us a safety net.
Sleep is not a bank. You cannot pay off a sleep debt on the weekend.
But, mercifully, we also learned how to fix it. We can take control by embracing strict regularity with our bedtimes, keeping our bedroom environment cool at around 65 degrees Fahrenheit or 18 degrees Celsius.
And fiercely protecting the psychological association of our beds by getting up when we are tossing and turning.
And for our B1 and B2 English learners navigating this deep dive with us, you now have 10 powerful new words firmly consolidated in your vocabulary arsenal.
Words like deprivation, deficit, consolidate, vulnerable, disruption, essential, accumulate, association, regularity, and mechanism.
These are robust, highly adaptable words that you can confidently use to articulate complex processes in your own professional and academic life.
They absolutely are.
It has been an incredible journey, blending the mechanics of the English language with the cutting edge of biological science. But before we sign off, I want to ask you to pull back and look at the macro picture.
Okay.
Based on everything we unpacked from these researchers today, what is the biggest, most provocative takeaway we should be pondering?
Well, if I connect all these biological mechanisms to the bigger picture of how we live, I keep returning to that daylight saving time statistic.
The 24% increase in heart attacks.
Yes. If artificially shifting our clocks by just one single hour causes a global 24% increase in heart attacks, it forces us to look critically at the structure of modern society.
So?
We currently force our delicate biology to adapt to an artificial 24/7 economic engine. We mandate early school start times for teenagers whose biological circadian rhythms naturally demand they sleep later.
Right.
We normalize late-night shift work for adults, despite the WHO classifying it as a probable carcinogen. We are constantly, aggressively fighting our own evolution.
That's very true.
So the provocative question is this. Instead of trying to medicate our way through the exhaustion, isn't it time we fundamentally redesign our work and school schedules entirely around our non-negotiable biological need for sleep?
That is a massive paradigm-shifting question. Redesigning society around sleep, rather than frantically trying to fit sleep into the leftover cracks of society.
Exactly.
It is something for all of us to mull over as we prepare for bed tonight. And as you do, remember the striking fact we started with.
A lack of sleep doesn't just make you a little tired the next day.
No, it fundamentally, structurally changes who you are biologically, right down to aging your reproductive system by a full decade. Take your sleep seriously. Guard it fiercely.
It is your most powerful biological superpower.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We wish you a very good, very regular, and very comfortably cool night's sleep.